Hello, welcome to Pop Along RC, the RC car channel dedicated to RC car racing. And here at Pop Along RC, we are all about getting you guys into RC car racing. Now, one race class that I have been fascinated by ever since I got into RC is the F1 class. We have had a few videos already on the channel from the Iconic Cup, where they run a vintage race series running the F101, 102 and 103. I've recently purchased this car here, and this is a Tamiya F104 Pro Mark II, which unfortunately at the moment is not legal for the Iconic Cup. However, I do intend to get into F1 racing. The Tyrrell P34. What an iconic car this is. Really looking forward to getting this built up. So let's have a quick look inside the box and see how this differs from the 104. Now, I can hear you screaming at the camera. Yes, I know the one big difference is the fact that this one has 6 wheels instead of 4. But aside from that, this car here comes with rubber tyres, whereas this one actually comes with foam tyres. So straight away, this is going to be very different in terms of grip on the track. So I'm looking forward to getting this one built up. The next real obvious difference is this comes with a Lexan shell that you need to spray, whereas this one here comes, just open this out, with a shell that is already coloured in those iconic colours there. Then we've got our decals, so I think I'm going to have to go with box art on this one. And then in here we have got some more bits. So again, the wing is going to be blue, whereas the figure in white there, I'm actually going to do my best to get this painted up really nice. I might bust out the proper paints for that one. And then looking at it, we've got our rear pod, our slider there, and that is the chassis. There is not much to that at all. And then in here we have got the massive front bumper that you get on the 6-wheeler. Comes with a servo saver, just a standard silver can motor. Those front wheels are tiny. And then last but not least, we have our manual. So if you're interested in seeing a proper build of the Tyrrell P34 6-wheeler on the F103 chassis, do stay tuned. So here are the steering mechanism for the front arm. So obviously we're going to have the steering wheel attached to this one, and therefore if this pulls back, it will pull the front one back as well. So these are the parts of the chassis. And we're going to be starting off working on this part here. So let's move on to the next step, which, as you can see, is this one here. So as we move on with the build, it actually goes together amazingly easily. Following the instructions step by step, and this little part goes together really nicely. And obviously this is where we put the steering mechanism. You had these little spacers in, which is quite straightforward, but then when we come to these little springs, careful not to lose them or ping them off all over the place, and they go in. That is actually the front suspension. That is what it consists of. So you've got the 4 springs on the 4 corners of that steering mechanism. Put the top on, and there you go. As you can see, the steering works in unison. At the moment they're independent because there's a bar that connects this side to this side, and once we've connected them up, they'll obviously steer the car. I really like the simplicity of that design. So moving on to the next step, obviously we've got our body posts that have just gone in there, and then add this little part on as well. The silver bit in the middle is actually where the mechanism goes, which controls sort of the side dampering. When it comes to this part, these alley parts, you actually need to get the Loctite out, and it comes in this nice little pot. So we added a little bit of Loctite to the screws, and these bits go together quite nicely. These will actually hold the battery in place. Now, if I look at the manual, I think the battery that it runs in the original car is a really small battery, so I'm going to have to experiment to see whether a shorty pack will fit in there, or whether I need to take some of those bits out and just resort to taping my battery in. Moving on now to the rear pod. Again, this goes together quite simply, 4 bits of plastic, and then we attach that to the base. And that's the rear of the car, pretty much done. Obviously we've got the motor to go in and the rear drive shaft. But when you put that in situ with the front of the chassis, there really isn't much to this car. But when placing it in, we've got the big screws to sort of put that in. So pop those screws into the bottom, flicked it over, and then I screwed it all in and attached the rear of the car to the front of the car. Goes in really nicely. Again, everything that I've done on this build has been super smooth, super easy to sort of put together. The steps have been really simple. Here's the mechanism I was talking about. So obviously this is going to get attached to the rear pod and the bit that goes above the battery there, and then that will sort of, you can adjust it to sort of set how much the car tweaks on the rear axle. Now I have put the motor in, and obviously there's the drive shaft that goes in there. But what I haven't done is fitted the ESC. So the reason is I am waiting on a servo to be delivered. So once this front section goes in, I need to fit the servo and the ESC. Then I need to position the wiring. I'm probably going to cut it down and solder it in place, but at the moment this is where I'm going to stop, because we've got to wait for the servo to be ordered, and then we will continue with the build of the Tyrrell 6-wheeler. But here's a little bit of motivation for F1 and some footage of us out at different rounds of the iconic Cup.